Here we go. All right, we are recording. Hello, this is Jacquie Phoenix here from Practical Lawful Dissent, UK, Canada, and Commonwealth. I have the privilege of having David Robinson here with me today for a brief Q&A. He is the founder of the original Practical Lawful Dissent group in the UK. David, just maybe say a little bit about yourself before we begin.
Hi, folks. Yeah, well, I'm a 55-year-old male. I've been practicing or learning the common law for about 20 years, but please understand, I'm no expert. There's a lot. It's a very difficult subject to find out, and get to the absolute truth with. So I've been educating myself for 10 years, and I started to put it into practice in 2010. And basically it's built into me sharing my knowledge with others to a group which is gone international. So I'm quite glad, because we only deal with evidence facts, and so it shows there are quite a lot of intelligent people out there, really.
Yes, and there's more joining all the time. We've been actually flooded with new members over the last few days alone. It's getting hard to keep up these days. And with that, and with it going international, we have a lot of questions coming from other Commonwealth countries outside of the UK, South Africa being one of them. So my first question for you, David, is, does the 1215 Magna Carta still apply to the South African people?
Absolutely, and evidently so. The 1215 Magna Carta was a treaty or peace treaty between the Crown and the people at the time. Unless the people revoke that themselves, which they have never done, it's still in effect. And there's so many common sense reasons why it's obviously in effect. And one of the major ones that I point out often is that Elizabeth, the alleged Queen of England, replied to the Barons' petition in 2001. She didn't mention that it had been repealed or revoked or wasn't in effect. In fact, if it had been, she wouldn't have bothered replying.
Exactly. Thank you, David. Next question. Is the South Africa Act of 1909, is that legal?
No, it's not legal, because if we follow, and we must, the English Constitution in its we have to maintain its sovereign status, which means the king must be a representative of the people. Now, in 1686, James II was allowed to treasonously take the throne of England, whilst he was a Catholic. Now, what most people won't understand, or maybe have researched yet, is that there's been a momentous battle with the Roman Catholic Church. The Pope has governed over this country for hundreds of years in the past, and there's been a battle between honourable kings and queens, but not many, to be fair. Elizabeth I was probably the last constitutional monarch we had, and she created some very powerful legislation which is still in effect today. Those two of those acts being the 1559 Act of Supremacy, popes to have any authority in this country, nor any foreigner, and also the 1571 treason, which is quite a powerful weapon when we're talking about people committing, death offences. I mean, it's got some sharp teeth. The truth with regard to the truth of. Sorry, I've got to talk.
It's okay. Your microphone's cutting out a little bit too, David. I think you got muted accidentally. You switched your microphone off, David. There we go. That's okay. It happens.
how much did I speak? How much did I say? Where did I get to?
You were just having a little bit of breath troubles there, so
Right.
we got all the information. I'm pretty sure we did.
Okay.
Thanks, David. So, so did Edward VII act lawfully when he gave royal assent to the 1909 Act?
Well, no, because if we go back to the evidence facts that we've had a treasonous administration since 1686, no, we haven't had a constitutional monarch ever since. So everything that has been done by the state, the crown and their government, etc., has all been done in treason. So every piece of legislation under this is not my belief or anything. This is under the constitutional laws of our country. So it's all evidenced in fact, and it's quite simple, really. It's the allowing James II on the throne. I'll just repeat that because I think I messed up there. Was against the 1559 Act of Supremacy and the 1571 Treason Act, so which are still in effect because they haven't been repealed by a constitutional monarch or superseded by any legislation that was created and given royal assent by a constitutional monarch. So therefore, then nothing is lawful from then on, really. So no, absolutely not. Queen Victoria also gave many of the colonies the rights to create their own constitutions, I digress. I think we're going to get onto that question later, are we?
Well, actually, you can clarify it up right now. That's fine.
Well, yeah. Well, there's been a long-term agenda to break up England and the colonies, the Commonwealth, basically. And if you look today, the Commonwealth of the Nations under the United Nations is another treasonous thing that's been going on behind people's backs. And the alleged Queen of Elizabeth has been supporting that. So Queen Victoria allowed a lot of colonies to have their own constitutions, but they didn't give them full disclosure. They didn't understand that what the constitutions they were provided actually don't provide the people with sovereignty. But I'm sure we'll put a point on that in another question.
Okay, perfect. So my next question is the English and Commonwealth Constitution the common law, and is there any difference between the two?
Right. Well, the common law is akin to our natural law. Now, natural law is the law of your conscience. This is how a jury will operate in a court of law, a common law court of law. They will decide whether a person acted with criminal intent or whether it was, they were perceived to be causing anyone harm or loss with intent. And the common law is a more natural thing, that goes back a lot further than even King Alfred. So it goes back to our Celtic roots. It's just basically the common laws and customs of the people, and King Alfred codified them in the legal code back in the 9th century. So he codified them because he created it as a structure. There was a structure of equal justice for all. He was a very good king, actually. If you look at what you can find about Alfred the Great, look how he dealt with Guthrum, the Viking leader. He gave him numerous chances to honor agreements for peace. Yet he went against him several times before he actually managed to create a peace treaty with him, and they actually turned them into Christian, Protestant Christians, rather than the Roman Catholic so-called Christians. Anyway, I digress again.
How should South Africans and Africans use Clause 61 of Magna Carta? And same with other Commonwealth countries as well there too.
Well, what we're doing in England is we've just recently put every police headquarters in England, Wales, Scotland and Ireland on notice that of the evidence file which is in the Foreign and Commonwealth Office called FCO, as F for Freddie, C for coconut. I don't do any of this stuff. And O for orange. And that's 30, 10, 48. And that's been in the public domain for now, well, since 2002. So we use that as absolute evidence in the National Archives, the Public Records Office today. And we need to get the police to observe this. What I would suggest for foreign for Commonwealth nations is mainly to focus on the fact that Article 61 of the Magna Carta was invoked, therefore proving that you have lawful excuse not to aid and abet the police, the government, or any of its agents whilst remedies is still outstanding. Now, we are attempting to get remedy, obviously, but it's gone too far. It's different. We can't go back to how we were. You know, I mean, I'm talking about before the so-called new normal. So everything's got to change. But I think I've digressed again, have I, Jacquie? Sorry.
No, you're kind of right on track still. Because my next question is, will the monarchical system be reinstated once we have reasserted the common law throughout the Commonwealth?
Well, I'm saying that's basically a constitutional impossibility as things stand, because we haven't had a sitting constitutional monarch for 334 years. And so we would have to convene a constitutional convention of the people, really, to decide what we feel is best for us. Because, I mean, we have had a long history of kings and queens who have not been honourable. Let's be frank. Let's be kind. You know, because quite honestly, it's an odd country as England. It's been designed by many nations and invaded by many people. You know, and at the same time at times. So, you know, it's got a mixture of peoples, which is fine. But I think that the common law should be applied across the whole entire globe, in my opinion.
I agree. I think a lot of people would agree with that. So what makes the people sovereign within a common law jurisdiction?
Okay, well, the one thing that makes the people sovereign, which is something that was basically they started getting at in 1285, which is the jury, and it's what's known as jury nullification. The jury don't have just the duty to judge the accused and the events. They have the duty also to judge the law. Therefore, providing the people with the absolute ability to be governed by the laws and customs that they are happy to be governed by. And that's the simple answer, really.
Yeah, the people are in charge with jury nullification, correct?
Yeah, because even if, now, let's say that the representative of the monarch, the highest public representative of the people, being the highest public servant, the king or queen, provides royal assent to a bill which is actually unconstitutional, because that would be a breach of her coronation, his or her coronation oath, which states that they will abide by the laws and customs of the people. So the contract would be broken. I think there would be some serious questions asked, and the statute would be kicked out, would be thrown off the statute books, and the people would be in control in that way. Now, the people, obviously, we have to act rationally and sensibly and logically and peacefully and wisely. There's nothing wrong with the common law. I don't know if we're going to be doing that question at all. I don't know if we're going to mention what common law is exactly, are we?
Yeah, you can go into that for sure, David.
Okay, well, it's simply it's the principles of natural law, you see. It's cause no harm, and that's to anyone or anything, really. Cause no loss, as the saying. Be peaceful in your daily, just be peaceful, frankly, and honor your agreements with others that are fairly agreed upon. So honor your contracts. It's very, or don't commit fraud. It's very simple. There's 4 principles, which is all you need to know. And, under common law, you can do anything but breach those 4 principles. You are free to travel. You don't need a license. You don't have a passport. Birth certificates are a creation of the fictional realm, which has been corporatized and set against the people. It was always a big plan of the so-called powers that be. I mean, this has been a long-term agenda. So we need to wake up, people. We need to stand together. We need to make damn sure that the police that are there to protect and serve under the laws and customs of the people do just that, and stop ignoring FCO 30/1048. This is what our demand is going to get bigger and bigger, because we're not going away as we the people,
No, that's for sure. Our numbers grow every day, and that's beautiful to see. So what can other nations do if Magna Carta is not part of their law?
Well, my advice to them would be to look into Agenda 21 mainly, because it's absolute evidence of intended crime, and it's going on. So it's actually evidence of crime. Agenda 21, the Sustainable Development project across the globe, by the United Nations, and the United Nations, let's be frank, are attempting to be the world governor or the world authority. And I suggest, and it is my belief, if you like, because I can't prove it, that it's the military arm of the Roman Catholic Church, to be quite honest.
It makes a lot of sense.
We're talking about the Church of Satan here. I mean, God, look at what they're actually exposing to people. And that's another point, actually, I'd like to quickly make, is
Sure.
that, they're going to expose, they want people to realize now that they're in a total satanic dictatorship and there's nothing you can do about it. That's what they're trying to portray. But we, the people, are stronger than that. And we need to stand together for our future and our children's future, and also to honor those in the past that did so to create these laws and to protect us. So we need to honor those laws, and that's what the common law is. It's the laws and customs agreed on by the people. Now, I agree that Magna Carta isn't essentially common law. This was well after the Norman invasion, and the common law basically got corrupted very badly with, well, you can say European or actually Roman Catholic principles, or ways of doing things. Because the Magna Carta itself talks about the magistrates and crown and county courts and stuff, which are basically unlawful. It does talk about the petite assizes, which are basically the courts of the people, but they were only really convened for the more minor things. So Magna Carta isn't common law, but it still retains many of the common law principles. Article 61 is so important for the people that they wouldn't have agreed to it if it wasn't for the clause 61. I can guarantee you that. And there's an awful lot of disinformation going on about whether Magna Carta is still in effect. And I would refer to my point earlier where it wouldn't have been responded to, and there's loads more evidence to prove it.
Yeah, that was kind of my next question. Has it been repealed at any point in history? Because there is a lot of misinformation, right?
Yeah, and it's quite simple. You got to apply a little bit of common sense, really. Let's see now. Magna Carta 1215 was agreed on by the people. Okay, maybe as a compromise, but nevertheless. In 1216, Henry III, 9-year-old, who came to the throne, who had puppet masters behind his scene, obviously. What he did was he reissued Magna Carta, and took 23 clauses from Magna Carta, including clause 61, of course, and some of the other very good clauses that were in Magna Carta, or still are in Magna Carta. and reissued it in the name of the Pope, because it was by the Pope's sanction that it was allegedly came into force and reissued. You know, and when people like say Michael Benicia, for instance, right, who's been publicly stating his nonsense about Magna Carta and all this, he doesn't give you any reason why, you know, why it was legal for King Henry the Third to reissue it without the consent of the people, you know, and in the name of the Pope. He doesn't give you any reason for that, and he also states that King John was held at knife point. Well, actually, you know, the evidence I can prove that I've got evidence to show on his historical records that, you know, those negotiations, he had mediators, and it wasn't just done at knife point. You know, it's just nonsense, and it shows his lack of you know, wisdom, really, because I don't see where, you know, any other remedy is going to work, because Michael Benicia, for instance, is going to come across the police where he wants 600 MPs to be arrested. Well, you know, they won't even acknowledge that the treason's being committed, and that's with now everyone, all of us. They're starting to come round, I think, but it's going to take a bit of a push, and I think we all need to try and unite. And I've tried to unite with Michael Benicia. I've tried to unite with other groups, but it's very difficult when they continue to ignore the evidence facts that we portray. And we don't portray any nonsense. When we make a claim, we back it up with evidence facts, and we always have done. Now, I'm not saying we haven't made mistakes in the past. We're human, but we are big enough to say, hey, we made a mistake. We've got to change something here. And the whole movement goes with it, you know. So I think people should give us a little bit of credit. And I've, you know, tried to, I wrote Michael Benicia a 9-page letter, okay, you know, putting my points across, providing the evidence of my claims, asking for him to educate me if I'm wrong, okay. So quite an honourable address, really, because I actually, if he did show me where I was going wrong, I would be grateful. But I've been ignored, and, you know, I've put a post on my Practical Lawful Dissent Facebook group page with his name on it, you know, asking just some very simple questions about, you know, how did Henry III reissue it without the consent of the people, and you know, does that mean it's fine for an Italian self-professed holy man to have authority over this country to reissue it? Because that's really what happened. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, I rambled on because it's a bit of a sore topic for me at the moment, because I've tried to create unity so that we can actually support Michael Benicia as well.
Unity is very important for this movement. I agree.
It's the main thing, you know. Now, if he thinks he can get 600 MPs arrested and banged up in this environment, well, I'll help him, but I can't see it. We'll see, won't we? Time will tell.
Yeah, for sure. Here's a good question, David. How does Magna Carta and Article 61 affect a country like Ireland? Because Ireland is divided right now.
Right. Well, Ireland is still, you know, part of the Commonwealth, and they should never be in the EU. You see, you have to go back to it's quite a big question, really, because it involves quite a detailed answer regarding, you know, it was treason for the people of all of our nations to vote for Brexit, for instance, you know, and in or out of the EU, because obviously the EU was created evidently treasonously. So Ireland they're occupied, they're under occupation, and they even had to vote twice to get out, and they still, you know, they didn't get out then because they fudged the votes, which they always do. So Ireland are free to stand under Article 61 of the Magna Carta, and a lot of them know it. And we've served the police in Ireland, the Garda, and we've got people in Ireland, and we've got people in the Isle of Man, we've got people in all parts of the country. People are getting together. Shopkeepers are now getting together to stand up against this COVID nonsense, using Article 61. Although Michael Benicia is just causing division with that one, because he's put a post up stating, you know, that it'd be much better to use Magna Carta 2020. Well, I have looked at Magna Carta 2020, and to be honest, I don't see much wrong with it. Although he mentions a bit the defunct and treasonous Bill of Rights and Declaration of Rights as if there's something useful. But the point I want to make is, yeah, I guess you can present a new Magna Carta, but it's got to be agreed on by the people, And I think, if you're going to create a new constitution, you need a constitutional convention, and people need to have their input, because I don't think it goes far enough anyway. I think it's basically sound, but there's other things that I would suggest, and I'm sure there's other people that would like an input in their constitution anyway. So I think it's a bit arrogant in some ways, although I can understand why he would attempt it, So I'm a bit of two minds about that one, but sorry, carry on.
Okay, for those who are standing under Article 61 of Magna Carta 1215 and want to travel outside of the Commonwealth, are they still protected?
Well, that's an awkward one, because yes, technically you are. You should be protected by our country, but obviously in these difficult times, the best I can say to that question, really, because I don't know, or I really don't, and I would say when you travel to another country, you have to abide by their law. It's just part of how it is. I mean, we expect people to abide by common law, although nobody does, hardly. In our country, when they come to stay or to visit and stuff, you can't establish Sharia law or any other law in this land. It's common law, and if you don't like it, then get out. I mean, that means anybody. I don't care what color or race they are, or if you don't stand under the laws of the people in this country, then you're against the people of this country. So get out.
Okay.
I mean,
here's another really good one that often comes up. We all know about the birth certificate and the fraud with that and the legal fiction. What is the best advice for new parents who are concerned about registering their newborns?
Well, the best advice I would give is to put them on notice, send them a conditional acceptance notice, conditionally accepting the lawful demand, really, because they lie about that, to register the child whilst at this time, whilst Article 61 is in effect, because it's it's the same thing with Article 61. You can use it for anything. It's just simply unlawful by the rule, by royal demand, if you want, of a constitutional monarch at the time, not to comply with the regime whatsoever. So you've got absolute lawful excuse. You shouldn't. The point is, nothing's really going to change until we get the police to change their stance. So I'm always just going back. Time's running out now, and we are getting close to martial law in all of the nations. So I think we're all getting to see that now. We've been harping on about this for years and years, but it's actually starting to come to fruition. I mean, NATO are in England, I understand, and some that they're going to hit Liverpool. I think it's probably. I think. Don't quote me on it, but I think you find their NATO troops. They're probably they do everything gradually, you see, and they'll come in and they'll just be helping people. But actually, this is the start of a covert martial law. You can guarantee it. It was always on the cards.
Exactly. Speaking of the government and what's going on right now, we do have a lot of people that are in government roles that don't agree with what the government are doing, and they want to stand under Article 61. They're a little worried about how they proceed. What would you advise for them?
I would say be careful, because what we've got is the silent. I call them the silent majority. I think Elizabeth Beckett used to call them the silent majority, and I agree, they are out there. And my best advice to them would be, just remain silent until the opportunity comes, and you'll know when it does. When the people need you to do the right thing, just do the right thing. It isn't. We have to drop our fear. We have to stand together. I know it's difficult, especially with the police. When they wake up and realise what's really going on, it's going to be a difficult thing for them, because they've got, mortgages and, fraudulent mortgages, and families to look after, they worry about promotions and all kinds of stuff because they're right in the system, aren't they? So the silent majority, I would say, stand fast, be aware, be vigilant, and do the right thing at the right time. Stand with the people. If we get the police to stand with the people instead of the corporations, we can crack this quite peacefully. We just need to get these evidently treasonous and perverted. My God, I mean, I could go on a big list of them, but dangerous people out of the way. Once we've got that done, we can all go back to common law, including the police, and they'll be a lot happier because they won't have all the 700,000 statutes they've got to deal with, all and a code of practice with every one of them. So I'm sure they'd be a lot happier having a little old granny across the road, wouldn't you?
Exactly, for sure. Okay, here's a big concern for people right now that has come up recently. Can we actually lose all of our common law rights by leaving the EU?
No, because we've lost our common law rights a long time ago. By leaving the EU, what we've done is we've left something that we could not have entered lawfully anyway. So it's all null and void. Some people don't realize is the EU was created by the United Nations, the same people that are going to do us all in under Agenda 21, which are doing so. So it was always the plan, really, if you look at it, that the EU would create all this legislation, it would fall, and everyone would go back, would go then under the UN, under this new world order, which they're trying to bring in. And so that was, that was the scam. Did I miss, sorry, what was the question again? I'm a bit tired actually, Jackie.
It's okay. I was just asking if we could lose our common law rights by leaving the EU.
Right. So no, we can't. Not by any logic or reason. Yeah, we lost our common law rights, and we need to get out of this dictatorship. So it's a kind of a moot point in a way, isn't it?
Okay. If there's anything you could say to the people, just one urgent message to the people, what would that be?
Stand together. What we need to do is to stand together and protect the common law by using it. Now, we advise, because what we don't go down the police stations with burning torches and pitchforks. We go down there with honourable intent, asking them, look, surely, we try to get to the human in some of them, and we invariably do, you see, because like we said, there's some good people out there. So the thing is to unite and demand that the police observe what is going on in England, because it affects them as well. You have to it's more difficult in the Commonwealth nations because you've got to overcome that hurdle, which is this fake constitution, which everyone thinks is great, which doesn't provide you with sovereignty. I think we went through the Canadian Constitution some while ago, didn't we? And,
yes, we did.
I showed everybody what's going on there, and I've been through the Australian one as well, and they're a tough bunch. They won't budge, but that I think reason and common sense and reason is starting to shine through a little bit. Common sense not so much, but the evidence facts are there now, and I think people are starting to see through the bullshit, and so we need to get on with this. And so stand together, be peaceful, be honourable, use the truth, stand by truth at all times, and do what you can to save our sovereignty and our rights under God.
Thank you, David. One last thing. Do you have a message for anyone out there that in law enforcement that may be watching this?
Well, what my message to them would be the same whole: be still, don't put yourself at any risk. We the people are going to give you the opportunity, because we've been our backs against the wall and we've got no choice. We're going to have to demand that you do your job, and if that means millions of us descending on police stations all over the Commonwealth, then so be it. We feel that there are enough decent people who would like an opportunity. And let's face it, if you're a copper, you feel a bit vulnerable, wouldn't you? Just standing up against the police station, the rest of the guys in the police station. I think with the people behind them, the people would be, the police would be more inclined to be, because we will support the police. Any police that come out, you know, in support of the people, I think we will give them amnesty as a movement, because we've got loads of them on notice for treason. Now, I would give them amnesty for a very limited period, and get them on side, and you know, that's it really.
Perfect. Thank you, David. Well, I know
But
you're
look,
getting.
I just want to say, you know, we're going to win. They're not going to win this. You know, we're not going away, and people in England are really starting to stand up now, even if we're not doing exactly what the common law, you know, Article 61 says. You know, we need to stand together. We will stand together, and we will defeat this madness.
Exactly.
Okay?
Thank you, David. Well, I know you're getting a little bit tired here, so we can wrap this up now. Thank you for joining me today, David. It was a privilege talking to you.
Thank you, Jackie. I think we've got some good points put out there tonight. So, and thank you, all South African people, you know, brothers and sisters, and we need to stand together. So, good luck.
It's very important we all stand together now. Thank you, David.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say good night then, Jackie.
Good night.
Good night.